Hi, this is a sample video to show some sample queries that can be made in ANNIS. When you connect to the ANNIS site, the first page you will see will have some sample queries. You can use these as a basis for modifying your own queries. If you click on the information to show the metadata, you can also see some sample queries here in the metadata. Let's say you want to search for a basic word, like this word norm, nuta in the norm layer. You would type in the name of the annotation, which is norm for the normalized text, equals, quote, nuta, unquote, to find any field in which nuta is the entire field in the normalized layer. So let's open up the annotation grid and see what this looks like. So here we see the normalized layer, and there's nuta in red, showing that this is the answer or result that was found with the query. Now, if you want to change this top base text to something other than the token layer, so you can see this, the breaks here correspond to this down here. And that's because this base layer, the token layer, is the smallest possible pieces of text that the text is broken into. And it includes breaks according to things like the columns and the lines. So for example, here the word nuta is broken across a line. So the word nuta is not the token, it's the nu before the line break and the te after the line break that are separate tokens. And then in the normalized layer, you can see they've been joined. You can also search for any field that contains nuta, but maybe nuta is not the only thing in the field. So you would use regular expressions to do something like this. Sorry. Which will search for nuta, and it will search for nuta even if there's something that appears before it in the field and something that appears after it in the field. Whoops. So here we have, you can see 66 matches. I'm going to change the base text to the normalized text. Looks like here you see a typo, that pe and the nuta should be separated, which shows that perhaps the best way to search for a word is to use this kind of expression rather than the quotation marks, because the previous search query would not have found this little error. So that's something to note for future to fix in the next release. So let's say you want to search for nuta only within a certain manuscript. If you look at the example queries, you'll see, here's for example, a query based on the metadata It is searching for anything in manuscript YA. So I'm going to just copy and paste this over here. So our previous search for Nuta had 66 matches, and we'll see how many there are now in 7 documents. Now there are 52 matches in 5 documents. It's because Nuta also appeared in 2 other documents. Now let's say we want to search within the translation layer. So if we look here, let's search for Abraham. Could search for Abraham in the Coptic, but let's just say we're going to search for Abraham in the translation layer instead, because we know how it's spelled in English. And we want to use these regular expressions instead of straight quotation marks, because there's no field that's going to just contain Abraham in the translation layer. The translations are all aligned by either sentence, in this case, or phrase. So this is nicely aligned with the Coptic, but it's not aligned word by word. The whole sentence is aligned with this whole section of Coptic. So we want to be sure we have the regular expressions that say, search for Abraham within a larger string. And let's delete the metadata and see how many hits we get. And we have 8 results, 8 instances of Abraham. I'm going to change the base text to the normalized text. And there we go. Now let's say I want to export these results, because I don't like viewing them on a screen. I want to print them out. I want to see them better. There are a lot of export options. I'm going to show you one. I'm going to show you the grid exporter. Which will bring up the annotations grid. Now, if you click on the question mark, it'll give you information. It says that the annotations, are all given a number. And to suppress the numbers, you have to input something in the parameters box. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, because I don't really want the token numbers. And then the only annotation layers I want to show, I don't want to show all of these, right? That's too much for me. So I'm going to pick only a couple of layers. I'm going to pick the normalized layer, the part of speech layer, because I want the grammatical information, and the translation layer. And then you click on here to export. And once you've exported, you can click the download button to download. Let's say you want to see all the translation, right? Just, you don't want to search, you just want to export somehow all the translation. Just enter that field name without any parameters in the query box. And you'll get the translation. Now, some of our texts don't actually have a translation, so you won't get those. And then you can grid export everything from the translation. If you just want, say, the normalized layer, just hit norm, and it will pull out every field in the normalized field set. That's 7,122 normalized bits, normalized entries in the database. And then again, you can export. There are lots of other things you can do, lots of other ways you can build a query using lots of other parameters, but those perhaps are the most basic to start.